Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Kinski, and today's topic is about how to parent today to prevent future addiction or suicide in our kids. And by the end of today's video, you'll know 6 key parenting practices for today to prevent future addiction and suicide in our children. You'll also get downloadable and watchable preventive and supportive tools and resources. We'll start by talking about 8 conditions that put teens and adults more at risk. So we can then look at how, in our parenting today, we can prevent these 8 conditions from happening within our kids. And remember first that parenting is not about being perfect, because that will never happen for us. It's about choosing love and doing the best we can to find our way through the challenges that come with family and life. So if you've had one of these experiences in your family, you are definitely not alone in this experience. So the fact is, this is a part of our world. Most of us have had people we care about struggle with addiction or even take their lives. Know that there is support for you, and I'll be listing some resources at the end of this video and down below that can be helpful for surrounding yourself with support, community, and the love you so deserve. So please pass this video on to someone who may need this. Please remember too that this video is meant to be just an introduction and a support on how to parent to prevent future addiction or suicide for our kids. Remember that even with our best parenting, these things can still happen. So remember then that these today are some parenting awarenesses and practices that simply help us to lower the risk for our kids. So, 8 conditions that put us all at more risk for addiction or suicide. 1, isolation, especially when we're going through a tough time, or don't ask for help when we need it. 2, disconnection. When I sit with adults who are struggling with depression and who have had thoughts of suicide, what I often notice is what I've also noticed within myself. When we feel disconnected from ourselves or from each other, it really is one of the most painful things we can experience, because disconnection is when we've lost our anchor that helps us to make meaning of our lives and to get through tough times. Number 3, where the brain is at developmentally. Teenagers and young adults are just at a higher risk because of how impulsivity affects their decisions. A younger brain truly has limitations in being as able to see the bigger picture and seeing how this moment in time is just that. It's a moment in the midst of a bigger life where someday this period of time won't matter as much as it does right now. Number 4, unresolved trauma, which leaves behind anxiety and stress, or having a daily experience in our nervous system that makes us feel edgy, numb, or unsafe in our own skin. Unresolved trauma can also leave us feeling different, like others can't really relate to our experiences. 5, unresolved grief. When we get stuck in getting through loss and not having support in grieving. 6, feeling unseen, as though we don't matter. 7, losing trust that there is an answer, feeling instead as if there's no way back home. 8, not knowing the relationship between tension or pain in the body, feelings and needs, not having experience with knowing what is happening in our body or in talking about feelings and needs. So why say so much about these 8 conditions that make teens and adults more vulnerable to addiction and suicide when what we're talking about is our parenting today? Because so much of our experiences in our teen and adult years and how we perceive life and our sense of worthiness to connect, to ask for help, or to reach for something bigger for ourselves is influenced by our beginnings. How we perceive these things is how we perceive our choices and our options. When we're not seeing options or feeling worthy of a better life, we humans are more likely to make the choice to use a substance to feel better, or ultimately to opt out of this life. So what are the 6 parenting practices we can use today in our parenting to prevent future addiction and suicide for our children? 1, listen well. We regularly need to really look for and understand our child's feelings and experiences, and to help them develop healthy coping by being genuinely interested in their ideas about solving problems, instead of immediately jumping into punishing, teaching, or fixing. 2, we need to let go of judgment. We need to make that a priority. Judgment that affects how we think, what we say, and how we respond to ourselves and others. If we talk about and judge others, our child hears this, feels this, and will learn which parts of themselves it's safe to share with us and which parts of themselves it's not safe to share. These parts they then hide away are the parts that end up causing emotional pain and unease in the body. That emotional pain and unease in the body is something that often builds up over time. Our kids then unconsciously learn to look for ways to distract, to soothe, to stop that pain. So it's important for us to make a practice of getting out of the seat of judgment. And this isn't easy. Our survival wiring sets us up to assess, judge, and make quick decisions about whether we or someone else is trustworthy, whether we or they are good or bad. Basically, whether a person is worthy. A book I highly recommend is The Judgment Detox and its companion workbook by Gabrielle Bernstein. We can use this book from a spiritual perspective or use it as a way of anchoring to our wisest self. This is a great beginning for doing work with any part of ourselves we feel is bad, unworthy, or unlovable. Because when we begin to let go of judging ourselves, there is more room to heal unwanted parts of ourselves. And as we do this for ourselves, we also open to acceptance and love for all of who our child is, even the challenging parts of our child. And when we're quicker to notice when we've settled into that seat of judgment again, we can more quickly get back to love. Number 3, we need to understand our child's developmental needs and limitations and how to meet them where they're at. So our expectations of them are truly in line with what they're capable of. Because when we become upset with them because we're actually expecting things of them which they're not yet capable of, we set them up for feeling like they failed. We set them up for shame. I'll give an example. When my son was 2 years old, he found a black permanent marker, and that was my bad for having it anywhere where he could get to it. Well, when he found that marker, he wrote all over the hallway walls. He did his art. I was sick, but the reality was that he was right on target for being 2. He discovered something he could make pictures with, very big pictures, I might add, and he was happy. I had to remember he was 2, and that is the sort of thing a 2-year-old will do. So when we understand where our kids are at developmentally, we can celebrate with them all the learning and growing they're doing in this moment in time. An amazing and classic book series to help with this, my favorite books really for child development, are a series of books by Louis Bate Ames and other authors. The first book in the series is Your 1-Year-Old Child. And this series goes year by year up to your 10 to 14-year-old child. We need to remember too that along the way, part of how our children become strong and resilient is that they're borrowing from our calm, our strength, and our trust in them as they're learning and growing. And we can better convey that sense of calm, strength, and trust in them when we understand where they're at developmentally. Number 4, this is a really important one. Unhook from parenting practices that use isolation as punishment. And in general, unhook from the praise and punishment trap that teaches kids to look for approval outside of themselves. Because we want to keep them connected to themselves in here, so that they're aware of their feelings and thus less likely to act those feelings out or to hold them in and eventually become depressed, chronically angry, or highly anxious. Be sure to look for upcoming video on how the praise and punishment trap takes our children's emotional intelligence off course. We want to keep our kids connected to us as we help them learn from mistakes. This has powerful influence on whether they will isolate when they're adults, when they make mistakes. If our kids feel that our door is still open today, now, when they make a mistake, they are more likely to reach out for support and help when they're teens and adults, because they've learned to talk with us and find solutions within a safe connection, instead of learning to isolate, to hold that inside and believing something about them is too big and too bad to share. As adults then, they have an established pattern of trusting that they can find their way back home to connection when they make a mistake, when they need help, or are going through tough times. I think the birds have something to say to that. Number 5, preventing mental health issues by not allowing emotional issues to fester. When we meet the behaviors in our child today that signal that they're having a rough time with emotions or that they need help, we can prevent patterns of helplessness or even of resignation by using our connection with them as the road back to feeling better. 6, so the last thing is forgiveness for ourselves as parents. Because when our kids see and feel our ability to make mistakes and forgive ourselves, they learn to forgive themselves. This builds resilience. This parenting job is not easy. It's the biggest, most important job in the world, in my opinion. Yet we weren't born knowing how to parent. And parenting becomes more complicated when we or our children and families experience loss, trauma, or ongoing stress. So if you're watching this video, I'm guessing that you're doing the best you can with your kids. And knowing that, I want to invite you now to write down your answers to this question. What do I feel? What do I do that I feel good about in my parenting right now? What am I good at? And if I really believed that my child is learning some really good stuff right now from me, what would those things be? Maybe it's that you show up for them consistently. You're a rock that way. Maybe it's that you have a strong work ethic. Maybe it's that you're crazy about them, even if maybe you're a little clunky sometimes with this feelings thing. But boy, they still know they are so loved by you. Who we are now is in some way or another our gift to our child, and you are that. Remember that. So whatever it is for you, I'd love to hear from you about this gift of what you bring to your children just by being you. Recap on preventing future addiction or suicide for our kids by our parenting today. A. Embrace parenting practices that are based in love and neuroscience. Practices that support brain health and the best development of our child. B. Don't walk, but run away from parenting practices that teach punishment and control as parenting techniques, and that link making mistakes with shame and isolation. C. Learn parenting practices that are based on a priority of maintaining connection with our child. We have lots of parenting books now that can give us ideas on how to meet challenging behavior in our kids. And again, I'll link some of those below. These are books that don't resort to punishment and shaming, but do turn to helping our children learn inside of a safe connection. Because learning within a safe connection with someone who loves them develops trust in themselves and trust that it's safe to be human, to be vulnerable, and to ask for help when they do fall. They learn that even when bad things happen or they really fail, they can find their way back home. Please let me know in your comments below if you found this helpful and what other questions or topic you would find useful. And remember, we're all in this together and we're better together. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Want more information about how to help your child through stress, loss, or trauma? Click the link below to get your free ebook that'll get you started today.